Every time a story pops up about a male lead who only leaves after 100 disappointments, the man cannot help but laugh. Why give a woman that many chances to hurt you in the first place? To him, a smart man leaves the second he senses a relationship is dead. No hesitation, just walk away. So, when he woke up as a CEO's trophy husband, he decided to be the most obedient spouse ever. When the cold female CEO wanted to keep him away from her and her first love, she tossed him a no-limit black card. He didn't waste a heartbeat. He grabbed the card and headed straight for a luxury mall 10 miles away. If he couldn't have her heart, why not blow her cash? He started a massive shopping spree right then and there. Inside an elegant private room at a high-end restaurant, Victoria Sinclair's phone kept buzzing. She gave a casual glance, then lifted her wine glass and took a slow, unhurried sip. Oliver Hayes looked at her with longing eyes. "Victoria, today is your anniversary. If you stay here, what will Tristan think of me? What he thinks is none of my business." Victoria's phone rang again. This time, she finally looked down. "Your account ending in 0001 has been charged $25,000. Your account ending in 0001 has been charged $500,000. In 2 years of marriage, this was the first time Tristan Vance had ever touched her money. Victoria's fingers brushed across the screen, and a cold, unreadable smile tugged at her lips. Oliver bit his lip. "Victoria, maybe you should go back and check on him." Before she could answer, another alert popped up. "Your account ending in 0001 has been charged $750,000. Your account ending in 0001 has been charged $1,200,000. Meanwhile, Tristan Vance was feeling the pure joy of spending without looking at price tags for the first time. Being treated like royalty triggered 20 years of repressed desire. Luxury watches, supercars, custom suits. He couldn't get enough. Not even close. Victoria's phone kept chiming, but she stopped looking. Still, the silence at the table turned suffocating. By the time the meal ended, her phone had gone off 18 times. She only checked it after paying the bill. But as she went to put it away, Blair called. "Victoria, I saw something about your husband. Not sure if I should tell you." Even through the phone, Victoria could hear the smirk in her voice. "Spit it out." Blair laughed. "I just saw your husband at the club. He booked 7 VIP hostesses at once. If you don't get here now, you're about to be played big time." "Tristan? At a club? 7 hostesses? No way. Are you blind?" Blair clicked her tongue. "No joke. With the way he dressed up today, I almost didn't recognize him." Then she sent a photo. In the picture, the man had clean, cropped hair, a custom black suit, and expensive bespoke leather shoes. Even from the back, that figure was enough to make anyone imagine a face so handsome it barely seemed real. Blair quickly sent another message. "Can you honestly tell that's your husband?" The more Victoria looked, the more ridiculous it felt. "Tristan Vance? No way." Oliver whispered, "Victoria, maybe you should head back. I can watch the movie alone." But Victoria ignored him, put away her phone, and followed Oliver into the theater. Oliver even posted a status to celebrate his first movie premiere. But 20 minutes later, another bank alert hit her phone. Tristan Vance had just spent $1 million at the Royal Club. This time, she lost it. Inside the VIP room, the lights were dim and the music was loud. Tristan leaned back on the sofa, sipping wine worth a fortune, surrounded by 7 gorgeous hostesses catering to his every whim. One was tending the small wound on his forehead. Another sat by his feet, gently massaging his legs. One stood behind him, rubbing his shoulders with practiced ease. Another was feeding him fruit, piece by piece. The rest were dancing and singing just for him. This was pure paradise. It was the exact fantasy Tristan had dreamed of 1,000 times. And now that it was real, he was loving every second. So when the manager came over with a fake smile to sell more services, Tristan didn't even blink. He waved a hand and charged another $1 million to Victoria's card. When Victoria slammed the door open, she saw Tristan touching a hostess's collarbone, looking like he had never seen a woman before. "Nice feel. You must work out a lot, huh?" "Handsome, I got one too. Want to feel mine?" The gorgeous hostesses rushed toward him, flaunting their curves. The sight nearly gave him a nosebleed. So this was the billionaire life. It felt damn good. Tristan reached out for more, but the door exploded open with a bang. A cold, sharp voice cut through the air. "Everyone, get the hell out." Tristan never expected Victoria to actually show up. With his good time cut short, he gave the hostess's waist one last reluctant squeeze. "Go on, all of you. When I'm free, I'll call you back." Victoria's face was so dark it looked like a storm was about to break loose. In no time, the room fell dead silent. Just the two of them. Tristan leaned back and sized her up. No wonder the original owner was obsessed. The second she walked in, every other hostess became invisible. Sharp brows, cold eyes, striking features. She looked like she was sculpted by the gods. Her designer dress traced her perfect figure, making her stunning silhouette look even more lethal. Just standing there, she radiated a scorching charm. Tristan thought to himself, if she ever hit the runway, she would be a total smoke show. Before he could go further, her furious voice crashed down. Using my money to humiliate me right in front of my face? Tristan, do you really think I won't ruin you? Victoria stared at him with icy eyes. For the first time, she really saw him. That lifeless hair was gone, replaced by a sharp, clean cut. Tristan met her glare without an ounce of guilt. Your money? We're married. What's yours is mine. You spend cash on Oliver, so why can't I spend some on company? When you were having candlelight dinners with Oliver, I didn't cause a scene. I didn't accuse you of cheating. I'm just relaxing and you storm in here? It's a bad look. If Oliver saw you, he would think you were jealous because you actually care about me. Tristan wasn't scared. The book was clear. She despised him so much that even a touch made her skin crawl. She was practically allergic to him. Touching him would be like self-harm for her. So even sharing a bed felt perfectly safe to him. Victoria let out a cold laugh, stepping closer to glare down at him. Drop the act. You swiped my card on purpose just to force me to come here, didn't you? Tristan looked into her eyes and placed his hand on her waist. His fingers traced her curves through the thin fabric. You left Oliver to come here. Doesn't that mean I matter more to you than he does? Her face turned stone cold. She seized his wrist, gripping tight. I told you. Don't push your luck. Don't fantasize about things you will never have. This is the last time. If you embarrass the Sinclair name again, you are done playing the trophy husband. She flung his hand away in disgust and wiped her fingers with a tissue. Exactly like the book said, she hated touching him. Tristan almost laughed out loud. He sat back, crossed his legs, and gave her a lazy look. You won't even sleep with me. You think I still care about this marriage? Throw the divorce papers at me right now. If I hesitate for a second, I'm a damn dog. Victoria paused, looking at Tristan as a slow smile spread across her lips. Divorce? Are you for real? You were the one who fought so hard to marry me. A minute ago, you were dying to have me, and now you want a divorce? What a joke. Tristan's gaze lingered on her face before sliding lower, bold and shameless. Either we sleep together, or we get a divorce. Your call. Victoria's face turned pitch black. Right in front of him, she called her assistant, Maya, draft a divorce agreement. I want it delivered to the house first thing tomorrow morning. The original Tristan loved her to death, refusing to let go even when she hated him, leading to his own ruin. But there are plenty of fish in the sea, and the new Tristan wasn't about to drown for a woman who didn't want him. He drained his drink, set the glass down, and stood up with total confidence. You made your choice. Don't regret it later. He didn't even give her a second look before grabbing his coat. He swiped his new watch and phone. Then Tristan walked out without looking back. Watching him leave, Victoria was convinced he was just drunk. That had to be why he was acting so crazy, even bringing up divorce. The ride home was silent. As soon as they got back, Tristan went straight to his room. But Victoria couldn't stop thinking about Tristan asking for a divorce. She scoffed. She couldn't wait to see his face when the papers arrived tomorrow. As she passed his room, she heard his voice and froze. Inside, Tristan was screaming at the top of his lungs. Today is the best day. Everything is going my way. Tomorrow is going to be even better. I'm going to fly to the sun and change the world. I'm chasing my dreams, and I don't care who sees. Listening to him howl like a maniac, Victoria frowned and tried to open the door to stop him. But the knob wouldn't turn. Tristan had locked her out. The man who spent every day trying to seduce her had actually locked the door tonight. Inside, he kept shouting off key, I believe in myself. I believe in tomorrow. I'm living my best life. Hearing him lose his mind, Victoria turned and walked away in disgust. The room he was in was the master bedroom. Since she refused to share a bed, she had always stayed in the guest room. So, the massive suite had become his personal playground. Tristan looked at the luxury around him, touching the expensive watches and designer clothes, feeling incredible. He took a long, relaxing soak in the giant bathtub. When he finally lay down on the plush bed in his silk pajamas, he couldn't even sleep. It all felt too good to be true. The next morning, Victoria woke up to an empty table. No breakfast, no nothing. She glanced at Tristan's door and scoffed. Just as she thought. The second he sobered up, he chickened out and hid like a turtle. Thinking about his divorce stunt last night, she let out a cold laugh, tossed the papers on the table, and headed to Sinclair Holdings. Meanwhile, Tristan had never slept on a bed so divine. He slept until noon and woke up feeling like a king. Seeing the luxury around him, it was official. He had definitely transmigrated into the novel. He replayed the plot in his head. This marriage wasn't meant to last 3 years. In less than a year, Victoria would bankrupt Vance Enterprises and kick him to the curb. But the book gave zero details on how she would do it. He didn't know her plan, but he wasn't about to lose this billionaire lifestyle. He got up, dressed sharp, and went downstairs. He saw the divorce papers on the table, grabbed a pen, and signed without a second thought. To him, hesitating over a divorce was a sign of weakness. He took out the black card and dropped it right on top of the signature. Then, he packed his essentials and went straight to the Vance family mansion. Forget being a tragic villain. In this life, he was the hero. When Richard Vance saw his son, he froze in shock. He dropped his newspaper and ran over. "Tristan, why are you home? Did Victoria bully you again?" Tristan shook his head. "No." His father grabbed his hand, unconvinced. "Really? Not a bit." Usually, Tristan would be busy delivering lunch to her at this hour, totally forgetting his own home. His father kept going. "Why didn't you call first? I would have had the chef prepare your favorites. And this haircut? It looks great. The clothes too." His father looked 10 years younger than his age, well-groomed and sophisticated. He looked at Tristan with pure love in his eyes. He immediately ordered the staff to cook Tristan's favorite meal. Every movement showed how happy he was to have his son back. Watching this, Tristan felt a sudden ache in his heart. Everything he craved in his past life was now being handed to him like this. His father smiled. "I will call your mother. She needs to come home for lunch." Before Tristan could stop him, the call was already made. He looked around the mansion, feeling his mood lift with every second. His father returned, fussing over him. He had always worried his son was miserable. He patted Tristan's hand. "Tristan, if anything happens, tell us. We are your shield. We are your armor." Tristan flashed back to being bullied as a kid and asking for help. Back then, all he got was a lecture. Out of all the kids, why do they only pick on you? After that, no matter how bad it got, he never said another word to his parents. Looking at his handsome, warm father, Tristan felt a wave of sadness hit him. Thinking of the family's tragic ending, he couldn't hold back and gave his father a tight hug. Right then, he swore he would rewrite their fate no matter what. Richard froze. He couldn't remember the last time his son had hugged him like this. Tristan whispered firmly, "Dad, I'm sorry for making you worry. It won't happen again. Never again." Richard's eyes turned red instantly. Since the marriage, Tristan had barely come home. And even when he did, it was always about Victoria Sinclair. He had warned him that forced love never lasts, but Tristan wouldn't listen. He was the only son, the pride of the family. They gave in only because they loved him too much. But after the wedding, they watched his light fade away until his whole world was just her. Richard saw it all and felt the pain. He had spent years worrying himself sick. Every time Tristan complained about his misery, Richard would lose sleep for nights. His voice trembled. "I just want you to be okay." Tristan heard the choke in his voice and saw the tears on his father's face. His own eyes burned. He wiped the tears away and smiled. "Why the tears? Look at me. I am fine now." Richard felt it. Tristan had changed. He felt like the boy he used to be. Soon, his mother Eleanor arrived, bringing Elena Sterling with her. Elena Sterling was his mother's friend's daughter. She was 3 years older and had been raised by the Vance family. They treated her like their own daughter, supporting her all the way through the Ivy League. Now, she was Eleanor's most trusted right-hand woman. Tristan caught her eye, and she didn't look away. In the book, he saw her as an older sister. He even asked her for advice on how to chase Victoria. And in front of him, she was always the perfect sister, protective, kind, and never crossing the line. But in the original plot, she was the one who found him after the car crash. Shaking, she had pulled his bloody body into her arms. Her eyes were filled with pure agony. She kept wiping the blood from his lips, crying uncontrollably. "Tristan, I regret it. I regret not stopping you from marrying her." In that moment, her love was a tide she could no longer hold back. She wanted him to know she had loved him for years. She tried to save him, but she could only watch his life slip away. That was her strongest moment in the book. It left readers heartbroken. Even Tristan felt a complicated pull toward her. Richard smiled. "Elena, you're here too." Tristan decided to act natural. He greeted her, "Elena." Same short skirt, but on Victoria, it was cold and noble. On Elena Sterling, it was elegant and soft, radiating a warmth that felt like home. Elena Sterling looked at Tristan with a trace of fondness. "Short hair definitely suits you better." Tristan smiled. "Right? I was thinking the same thing." She kept the compliments coming. "And this outfit is perfect on you." Tristan smirked. "Guess my taste is finally leveled up." The original Tristan was always insecure around Victoria Sinclair. But with Elena, He felt like the center of the universe. Tristan tried to act the part, but knowing she had a crush on him made it hard to stay relaxed. She smiled, then shifted the topic. Weren't you busy delivering lunch to her every day? What brings you home at noon? Tristan toyed with his watch, acting natural. It is too hot out. She said it was too much trouble for me. So, she told me to stop. The second he said it, everyone stopped. His parents and Elena all looked at him with pure disbelief. The people who actually loved him knew Victoria Sinclair would never be that kind. Elena Sterling raised an eyebrow. Seriously? Tristan shook his hands at her. Look at these hands. Do they look like they belong in a kitchen? She took a look, her eyes softening. They're very nice. A man's hand should look like this. Tristan felt his face heat up. He could handle models at a club because there was no heart involved. But when it came to real feelings, he was a total amateur in the game of love. Knowing her secret crush made him feel like a rookie. He had no idea how to play this. He quickly changed the subject. How was the business going? Elena Sterling answered casually. Pretty good. She continued. We are in talks for some massive projects. If we land them, we will hit a whole new level. If the company took on several major projects in a row and later failed to keep the cash moving, then the funding chain would snap, and if the Sinclair family stood by and watched at that point, could that be the strategy Victoria was planning to use? The thought made Tristan cut in at once. Can the company really handle several major projects at once? I do not think the market environment is that stable right now. What matters most for the company right now is staying steady. It needs enough cash flow on hand to deal with whatever risks may come later. There were things he could not say outright, so he warned her indirectly. Elena Sterling looked at him, and there was a clear trace of scrutiny in her eyes. Since when did you start caring about company matters? The original Tristan had never cared about the company. Only then did he realize he had shown too much. So he casually touched the diamond on his watch. I have been around Victoria's company long enough that some of it rubbed off on me. Elena fell silent for a moment. He glanced at her and still could not stop himself from warning her again. You and Mom really need to think carefully about those projects, especially whether the company can truly bear the risk if something goes wrong. Elena Sterling kept looking at him, as if she wanted to read something from his face. Then she suddenly asked, Did you hear something for Victoria Sinclair? Or are you trying to get us to step back and hand the projects over to her? After all, the original Tristan had once been hopelessly love-struck and had pushed the family to help the Sinclair group more than once. So now that he was suddenly trying to stop them from taking those projects, it was only natural for Elena to think that way. He could only explain, No, I've just been having the same dream over and over lately, dreaming that the family company goes bankrupt. Elena Sterling looked at him without saying anything, but her expression made it obvious she did not believe him. He hesitated again and again, glanced toward his parents in the distance, then finally leaned closer to Elena, raised a hand to shield his mouth, and lowered his voice. Actually, I secretly overheard Victoria say she wants to destroy the Vance family. He pulled back immediately, but he saw her ears turn bright red. He didn't expect a little whisper to fluster her so much. Tristan awkwardly pretended not to notice and whispered, I'm afraid my parents cannot handle it, so I have not said a word. I did not know anything about business, so I'm counting on you. Elena Sterling leaned lazily against the sofa, absent-mindedly rubbing her ear. She looked at him and asked softly, What about you? What's your plan? Before he could answer, Richard called them to dinner. The second Tristan saw the feast, his mood hit an all-time high. His father kept piling food into his bowl. Eat more. You've gotten so thin. Looking at the amazing spread, Tristan could not help but swallow. It is because I have not had home-cooked food in so long. I am starving. Give me a few days at home, and I'll be back to my old self. Hearing this, Richard piled even more food. If you want home cooking, I will have someone deliver it to you every single day. Tristan shook his head. No need, Dad. I'm moving back home for good. Suddenly, his parents and Elena Sterling all froze. Tristan set down his chopsticks. Mom, Dad, I'm divorcing Victoria Sinclair. I used to think if I tried hard enough, she would love me back. But now I get it. Love cannot be forced. I am done with her. I just want to stay here with you. He said it calmly, without a hint of sadness. But his parents did not believe him for a second. They thought he was just venting. Tristan asked, Why is everyone so quiet? You are not worried I will be a freeloading brat, are you? Richard snapped out of it with a huge smile. Never. Having you home is the best gift I could ask for. Eleanor Vance was even faster. She instantly pulled out her phone and made a transfer. Your account ending in 4721 has been credited $10 million. She sounded incredibly indulgent. Come home whenever you want. Your mother can afford to spoil you for 10 lifetimes. In that moment, Tristan realized what real parental love felt like. Watching them, he could not help but think of his biological parents from his past life. Ever since he was little, the good food always went to his younger brother. If he reached out, his mother would smack his hand away. He wanted to go to college, but they refused. They told him to work or get married off to bring in money. They never cared if he was suffering. They only cared about the cash he brought home. All they knew was how to use guilt as a leash. He felt that if he died, they would not shed a single tear. Looking at the parents in front of him now, his eyes grew damp. "Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Mom. From now on, I will only love you." He remembered the book. Once the Vance family went bankrupt, his mother died from the shock. His father followed soon after, consumed by depression after losing his wife and son. Tristan was going to change everything. He noticed Elena, Sterling, staring at him. She looked almost jealous. "What about me?" Tristan casually tossed a piece of meat in her bowl, the fatty piece he knew she hated. Meanwhile, at the Sinclair group, the assistant walked in. "Ms. Sinclair, Tristan did not show up with lunch today." Victoria Sinclair checked the time. Normally, Tristan would have appeared long ago. What? Was he so scared of the divorce that he did not even dare bring food anymore? She looked up and scanned Maya. "What? Are you addicted to it now? Wanting to call and ask for you?" Maya waved her hands. No, I was just saying. Besides, the meals he brought usually ended up in your stomach anyway. It had become a habit. Since he did not show up, she could not help but ask. Seeing the CEO's mood, Maya grabbed the files and left quickly. Victoria had a rare day without Tristan's interference. But when work ended, the image of Tristan in that black suit from last night resurfaced. She curled her lips coldly. She went to the club, and the moment she entered, everyone turned to look at her. Victoria sat down, her face darkening. "Why are you all staring at me? Are you sick?" Blair asked tentatively. "Why did Tristan not come with you this time?" Victoria gave them a cold look. "Did you not all hate it when he followed me? Now that he is gone, isn't that what you wanted?" Chloe poured her a drink. "We are just worried. What if he stops caring, and you are the one who cannot get used to it?" As her close friends, they knew Tristan used to follow her everywhere. He would never go to a club on his own, and he would never leave her behind to go to the Maldives alone. Now, it really seemed he did not care. Victoria's face turned pitch black. "If your eyes are useless, you might as well donate them." Blair smoothed it over. Fine. Let's just celebrate Victoria finally getting a break from this misery." Victoria took a sip, ignoring them. Then Chloe held up her phone. "Victoria, okay, him forcing that marriage hurt your pride. But with that face and body, he is more than enough for you. How did you go 2 years without touching him?" Back when he only had eyes for her, Tristan had the contact info of almost all her friends, so they could all see his social posts. Before, his posts were all about Victoria Sinclair, staking his claim, or writing long essays about how much he loved her. Since she blocked him, her friends would screenshot his post to mock him. But 2 hours ago, they found he had deleted everything related to her. Then he posted from the Maldives with 9 beautiful sunset photos. The caption said, "Watching the most beautiful view with the people who love me most. This life is so good." Victoria Sinclair glanced at the screen. It was Tristan, smiling brightly by the sea. Serena said, "He feels like he's changed so much." Blair joked, "Honestly, he is actually quite attractive like this." Chloe sighed, "I guess this is what someone looks like when they truly stop loving someone." Bang! Victoria slammed her glass onto the table. Her face was stormy. "Are you insane? We came for drinks, and you're all talking about Tristan?" She stormed out and sat in her car, irritably unbuttoning her collar. She checked his feed and realized he really went to the Maldives. In the photos, his clear eyes were full of laughter, like light was spilling out. Whether it was his profile or the way he faced the camera, every move showed genuine joy. His eyes were filled with the brightest things in the world. Was this really Tristan? The man whose eyes used to be full of nothing but obsession for her? He looked completely different. Though Tristan Vance was rich now, it was the Vance family money, not his own. This kind of wealth could vanish at any moment and didn't give him real security. So, he had to achieve success in his career as soon as possible. Combining both his lives, this was the first time he had ever gone on a vacation. In the past, he lacked both the money and the time. Now, he had plenty of both to splurge. The sea breeze in the Maldives was cool, and the blue ocean stretched to the horizon. He changed into beachwear and sat under a parasol with an iced coconut, looking completely at ease. Elena Sterling wore a long white dress, looking as beautiful as a painting in the wind. The two strolled on the beach, the sand fine and warm beneath their feet. Looking at her, he felt a sudden sense of reality. This was the life he had always longed for. Over the next few days, he He took her to try various water sports, from diving to surfing, yachting to helicopter tours. Every activity felt fresh and exciting to him. Elena Sterling gradually opened up from her initial reserve. She would take his hand and excitedly point at schools of fish. After a successful surf, she would flash him a brilliant smile. Seeing her relax, he felt the trip was well worth it. Since Victoria Sinclair didn't cherish such a good girl, he, as a younger brother, naturally had to take more care of her. At night, they sat in a seaside restaurant for a seafood feast. The seafood was fresh and delicious. He didn't expect that the seemingly delicate Elena Sterling could peel shrimp so fast. Soon, a small pile of shrimp meat grew in his bowl. He smiled at her. "You eat too. Don't just peel them for me." He finally decided to bring some specialties back for the family. Though the Vance family didn't lack anything, it was a gesture of his heart. He chose high-quality luxury items and tropical goods unique to the islands. Of course, he didn't forget a gift for Elena Sterling. It was a pearl necklace that suited her temperament perfectly. Surprised, her eyes sparkled with joy. "Thank you, Tristan." At this time, he didn't know he was thriving in the Maldives. Meanwhile, in the city, Victoria Sinclair was in a bad mood. Even with Oliver Hayes around, she felt an empty spot in her heart, especially when she saw the updates he posted on social media. He was smiling so brightly with Elena Sterling by his side. Frowning, she tossed her phone aside. The photos were almost all of him eating or having fun. He just casually mentioned the coconut water was good and added a selfie. With his fair skin and handsome features, he looked dazzling in the sun. The comments were full of praise, some even asking if he needed a girlfriend. She sneered and closed the app. This man really knew how to enjoy himself. Without her, his life seemed even more exciting than before. Tristan Vance just wanted to show off a bit, but he really made people jealous. His father, Richard, left a sour comment. "What? Your dad is not good enough." He replied instantly, "Dad is great too, but Mom bought all this for me." Elena Sterling joined in. "Am I not good?" He typed back with a smile. "You are the best in the world." In the hotel, Victoria Sinclair tugged her collar, but the tightness in her chest remained. For 3 days, he hadn't contacted her, yet he seemed happier every day. Seeing him so happy made her feel like she had swallowed a fly. Utterly disgusted. Just then, her phone rang. It was a message from him. The pressure in her chest eased. So, he finally couldn't hold out any longer. Without realizing it, she opened the chat with a faint trace of expectation. But next came a blunt line. "The divorce papers were signed days ago. Isn't it time to finalize the process?" Her eyes shook visibly at the words. Her grip on the phone tightened until her knuckles turned white. After a long time, she stood up abruptly and drove straight home. The house that was always lit for her was now dark, save for a lonely street lamp. She turned on the lights only to find the place hollow. The figure who always waited for her was gone. The divorce agreement lay quietly on the table with the black card she gave him. She picked it up. His handwritten name was so piercing she couldn't look away. Unknowingly, she crushed the paper into deep wrinkles. The emotions in her eyes surged uncontrollably. The man who was jealous over her days ago now wanted a divorce. Impossible. She let out a cold laugh. Meanwhile, at the Vance Villa, Eleanor Vance was giving specialties to the staff. Tristan said these were delicious, so he brought some for you to try. They thanked her happily, and joy spread through the house. Richard Vance sat nearby, leisurely sipping tea. Elena Sterling was on a work call. The large house felt warm and full of life. Tristan Vance was holding his phone, wondering if he should just call Victoria Sinclair. Just then, Elena Sterling sat beside him. "Where's my gift?" He met her gentle eyes, full of expectation. It was hard not to favor her. He stood up to open his suitcase. He took out 2 night lights, one made of shells. He had DIY'd it himself at a roadside stall. He held them out. "Which one do you want?" She looked them over and asked, "Who is the other one for?" Knowing what she thought, he teased, "For myself." She smiled and picked up the shell lamp, turning it over in her hands. Eleanor Vance noticed the lamp in her hand. She smiled and added, "Tristan made that one himself." Hearing this, she looked up at him immediately. Her joy was impossible to hide. "You made this?" In the past, nearly all handmade items by the original Tristan were gifts for Victoria Sinclair. Elena Sterling had loved him in secret for years, so the joy of receiving a handmade gift for the first time was immense. He gave her a cold glance. "What? You do not like it? If not, give it back." She looked at him softly. "I do not dislike it." Perhaps because he already knew her secret, the way she looked at him was different now. It made him feel a restrained, deep affection in her eyes, making it hard to resist the temptation of her beauty. He stood up with his phone. I am tired, going to rest now. Back in his room, Tristan saw Victoria's reply. 9 tomorrow morning, attorney office. In the book, she would bankrupt the Vance family first. If they divorced now, maybe their fate could be rewritten. In high spirits, he set an alarm after his bath, fearing he might oversleep. He woke up even before the alarm. Thinking of his coming freedom, he dressed up carefully before heading down. By then, Richard Vance had already left for the company. His mother was trimming flowers and called him over for breakfast. But he was in a hurry, made an excuse, and left quickly, wanting to surprise them after the divorce. The original Tristan could drive, but he couldn't. At most, he could handle a scooter. He hadn't even taken a driving test. His ride arrived at the office at 8:50. He immediately called Victoria Sinclair to ask when she would arrive. She replied, soon. He waited under a tree until 9:30 before her car finally appeared. He walked over impatiently to meet her. Through the window, she saw him in a crisp white shirt, collar open, revealing his firm chest. With a smile and hair shifting in the breeze, he looked strikingly youthful, as alluring as a male incubus. He walked toward her in the light as if he were glowing, outshining everything else. He knocked on the window, and she finally stepped out. When they met eyes, there was no trace of her in his gaze. No sadness, just amusement and a strange distance, nothing like she had expected. He gave her a calm look. Let's go. He turned and headed for the entrance, his steps light and full of impatience. At that moment, she finally believed he truly wanted a divorce. Watching his back, she remembered the humiliation of their forced marriage 2 years ago. To her, marrying Tristan Vance was a disgrace. She had waited for the day to wash it away, but he beat her to it. He walked back when he saw she wasn't moving, frowning. What is wrong? You got a bad feeling. Did she forget her ID? She came for a divorce and forgot her paperwork. He pressed her. If you do not have them, have someone bring them over now. She just stared at him coldly. He was speechless. Why is she just staring? If you're going to call, do it. She finally spoke. I have a meeting at 10. We will do the divorce later. He stopped her. We are already here. Push the meeting back. I did not want to wait for the next time. He knew she delayed meetings for Oliver Hayes all the time. So this meeting wasn't that important. What Tristan Vance never expected was that as soon as he finished speaking, the expression on Victoria Sinclair's face changed completely, cold enough to freeze someone on the spot. Tristan, do you really think your business is always the most important? Does the livelihood of tens of thousands of employees not even compare to your little divorce matter? You really think too highly of yourself. He was stunned by her scolding for 2 seconds, and his temper instantly flared. This double-standard hypocrite. It was fine when Oliver Hayes asked her to delay meetings. But when it was his turn to ask for one delay, it suddenly became a major crisis affecting tens of thousands. Besides, isn't divorce her business as well? Victoria Sinclair gave him no chance to react or argue. After leaving those cold words, she turned and left. They agreed to divorce, yet she was late and forgot the documents. Logically, he should have been the one angry, but instead, she was the one slamming the door and leaving. He was so angry he wanted to curse. He had even thought of the social media caption to celebrate being single and planned where to have fun tonight, yet the divorce didn't happen. With nowhere to vent his fire, he went to the supermarket, bought a bunch of snacks, and headed straight to the Sinclair group. When Victoria Sinclair returned to her office, she saw him sitting on her sofa, playing games on his phone. He was chewing on a spicy snack, and the whole office was filled with the strong smell of it. The coffee table was piled with snacks. Chips, jerky, spicy strips. Things he would never have touched before. Victoria Sinclair frowned in disgust. Why are you here? Chewing the snack and staring at his phone. He didn't even look up, waiting for you. She walked to her desk and sat down, looking at him. Waiting for me for what? This version of him, eating junk food and gaming, without any of the baggage of a wealthy young master, was so unfamiliar she barely recognized him. Only then did he stop and look up. Didn't we fail the divorce paperwork this morning? I knew you were busy, so I waited here for you to finish to go do it. Victoria Sinclair stared at him coldly, loosened her collar, and said flatly, I do not have time at all today. He stared at her, his suspicion growing. Then when exactly will you have time? She took the files nearby, her tone dismissive. When I am free, I will naturally contact you. He immediately felt she was backing out. As a powerful CEO, if she really wanted a divorce, how could she not find any time? But why would she back out? She clearly loathed the original Tristan. Shouldn't divorce be a relief? Or was her torment of him not enough? Although the book never said it outright, her attitude clearly had a vengeful tone after being forced into marriage. The more he wanted her love, the more she wanted him to taste the pain of unrequited love. Now that he proposed divorce, Did she want him to experience the torture of wanting to leave, but being unable to? He got angrier as he thought, stood up, and questioned coldly. Victoria, do you actually not want a divorce? I'm giving you 3 days. If you do not go with me within 3 days, I will file for divorce directly. This wasn't a negotiation, but notice. After leaving these words, he picked up his things and prepared to leave. Right then, Oliver Hayes pushed open the door and walked in. Seeing Tristan Vance, fear surfaced in Oliver's eyes, and he instinctively wanted to retreat. Seeing this, Tristan smiled. Am I coming at a bad time? Even so, he stopped him. No, you came just in time. Oliver Hayes was the novel's hero, fresh and obedient looking, with a frail build that made people want to protect him at first glance. His backstory was the standard tragic one. His father was a gambler, and his mother was chronically ill. In high school, his father owed loan sharks, even planning to sell him off, until Victoria Sinclair stepped in and saved him, shielding him ever since. Later, when he wanted to enter entertainment, she personally signed him and made him a superstar. As the hero, Oliver was kind, hardworking, and moral. He had loved her since the moment she saved him, but he felt unworthy of her and never dared to confess, only wanting to become better to be worthy of standing by her side. After her forced marriage, even though he loved her, he strictly kept the boundary of not being the third party, always maintaining the proper distance of a friend. The novel was told mostly from his and the original Tristan's perspectives, and the heroine's feelings for him were revealed gradually. In the progress he'd seen, they hadn't confessed yet, so this mutual secret love made readers feel both heartbroken and expectant. As for Tristan Vance, the villain, readers were urging him to exit the story every day. Tristan Vance calmly explained to Oliver Hayes that he had just finished talking with Victoria Sinclair about the divorce, but since she did not have time to handle the paperwork today, he was about to leave. After saying that, he glanced at Victoria, then at Oliver, and moved to leave with remarkable ease, wearing a smile so sincere it almost looked genuine. You two can talk. I won't interrupt. As he passed by Oliver, he clearly felt him shrink aside a little. But honestly, Oliver Hayes could hardly be blamed for being afraid of him. The original Tristan had always treated Oliver as the home-wrecking third party in the marriage. Every time he saw him, he found a way to torment him. He was a textbook villain. So, in the spirit of clearing his name, he even thoughtfully closed the office door behind him on the way out. Oliver Hayes widened his eyes, completely stunned as he watched Tristan Vance leave. When he turned back toward Victoria Sinclair, he saw that she was still staring at the closed door, her expression dark and unreadable. By the time Oliver stepped forward with the local specialties he had brought, he noticed that the pen in Victoria's hand had already smeared ink across the document. Only then did Victoria Sinclair pull back her gaze and look up at him. Why are you here? Oliver Hayes smiled and set the bag down on the desk. These are some things from my hometown. I thought they were pretty good, so I brought you some. And thank you for helping my mother find a doctor. As he said that, the emotion in his eyes became even more restrained, and he asked quietly, Are you really divorcing Tristan? Meanwhile, Tristan Vance had just come out carrying a huge bag of snacks when he ran into Maya, who was holding documents and heading in to get Victoria's signature. He lifted an arm and stopped her on the spot. Your President Sinclair has something more important going on right now. Hold the documents. Wait until Oliver Hayes comes out before you go in. Maya looked at the office door, then at him, completely baffled. Oliver Hayes is in there. Oliver was inside, yet Tristan was not throwing a jealous fit. He was standing there calmly and even stopping other people from interrupting. The next second, he casually opened his snack bag and held it out toward her. Want some? Maya had always been a glutton at heart, so when the snack were practically offered to her face, she gave it immediately and grabbed a pack of spicy snacks. Thank you, sir. He casually added another reminder. Use your head next time. When Oliver comes to see her, don't go in and interrupt. After tossing out that line, he left cleanly. In his view, helping them along was the same as helping himself. The sooner they gave in to whatever feelings they were trying so hard to suppress, the sooner Victoria Sinclair could finalize the divorce with him. After all, if it really came down to filing for divorce in court, he would still need evidence, and just thinking about that was already annoying. While chewing on the snacks, Maya waited until Oliver came out, then took the documents into the office and could not resist saying, President Sinclair, do you know what Tristan just told me? Victoria Sinclair lifted her eyes and shot her a cold look, but Maya kept talking anyway. He said I could only go in after Oliver Hayes came out. He also said that whenever Oliver comes to see you in the future, I should not go in and interrupt. Victoria Sinclair snatched up a file and threw it onto the desk, fury all over her face. Is it him paying your salary or me? Maya hurriedly grabbed the file, but still could not help continuing. Have you not noticed Tristan has changed? He really does not seem jealous anymore. He even looks like he's trying to push you and Oliver together. Victoria's Sinclair stared at her coldly, and a dangerous smile slowly tugged at the corner of her mouth. Have you been too idle lately? Maya instantly shut up, hugged the signed documents to her chest, and fled. Victoria's Sinclair slammed her pen onto the desk, and the faint curve at her lips slowly disappeared, her gaze turning colder and darker by the second. On the other side, with the divorce still unfinished, Tristan Vance left the Sinclair group, saw that it was nearly noon, and simply hailed a cab home. After eating lunch with his mother, he searched online for a driving school nearby and called to ask about it. After all, having all those luxury cars in the garage but only being able to look at them was pure torture. The original Tristan already had a driver's license, so for him, all he needed now was to actually learn how to handle a car properly. And with a dedicated training ground at the driving school, it was easily the best option. Once the call was settled, he immediately booked another ride and headed straight to the driving school, fully embracing the idea that money makes the world go round. The school owner even arranged a beautiful instructor with an exceptionally good temper to teach him one-on-one. Honestly, he got exactly what he paid for. Even Tristan Vance felt like he was hopelessly clumsy behind the wheel. But after spending the entire afternoon teaching him, the beautiful woman never lost her temper once. Instead, she kept encouraging him, patiently reassuring him every step of the way. Thanks to that, Tristan spent the whole afternoon practicing and finally learned the basics of driving. To thank her, he invited her to dinner after they finished. Meanwhile, just as Victoria Sinclair was about to leave work, Blair suddenly sent her a message. "Victoria, we were wrong last time. We didn't think enough about how you felt. Tonight is on us. We really want to apologize." Victoria paused when she saw the message, then rose to her feet and picked up her coat. 20 minutes later, she stepped into the restaurant. The moment she walked inside, she spotted a familiar figure smiling far too brightly. She slowed her steps, and before she even got close, she heard Tristan openly praising the woman sitting across from him. Exactly. A young woman like you, with a face and figure like that, should have a bright future ahead of you. How could someone like you stay wasted at a driving school forever? Only after chatting for a while did he find out she was not even an instructor at all, but the driving school's owner's daughter. She had only been dragged over to teach him because they were short-handed. Tristan could not help laughing when he heard that. But before the smile had even faded, he suddenly felt a cold, piercing stare land on him. The moment he looked up, he saw Victoria standing not far away, staring at him with a dark expression. He had not even had time to open his mouth before Victoria grabbed him and dragged him straight out of the restaurant. She pinned him hard against the car and spoke through clenched teeth. "Tristan, we're not even divorced yet, and you're already out here fooling around with some random woman? Who gave you the nerve?" Tristan lifted his eyes to the woman right in front of him and could not help thinking that such a beautiful face was completely wasted on someone with a temper this awful. He rubbed the wrist she had yanked painfully and answered with irritation. "What random woman? I'm just having a normal dinner with her. Stop talking nonsense." Victoria's temper flared even higher as she glared at him. "A normal dinner? Do you think I'm blind?" Tristan could not even be bothered to look at her anymore and simply tilted his head back to stare at the sky. "If you think you're blind, then there's nothing I can do about it." That line made Victoria laugh in anger. She reached up, grabbed Tristan by the chin, and forced him to face her. Her tone carried the cold pressure of someone used to being in control. "Tristan, do you think this is still 2 years ago? Do you think I still have to tolerate whatever you do?" But Tristan deliberately made his words sound even more suggestive and provocative, as if he wanted to push her harder. "Once the lights are off, women are all the same, aren't they? It's not like I absolutely have to have you." The instant those words left his mouth, Victoria's face darkened as if it had been dipped in ink. She ground her teeth and laughed in pure fury. "Say that again." Tristan did not back down either. "Wasn't I already about to? You're the one who rushed out here and interrupted. If you don't have anything else to say, then I'm going back in. My phone is still inside the restaurant." After saying that, he even lifted a hand and smoothed back his hair. Seeing that Victoria surprisingly did not stop him this time, he turned around and went straight back inside. But he had barely sat down when his phone suddenly rang. He picked it up and saw that Victoria had sent him a video. The moment he tapped it open, his face turned pale. The video was full of the original Tristan's dirty history. There was proof that he had hired people to kidnap Oliver Hayes, proof that he had shoved someone into the road during an altercation and caused a car accident, and even footage of him ordering others to bully Oliver. If that evidence reached the police, it would be more than enough to send him away for years. Victoria had not brought it out before because she was clearly wary of the Vance family. But now that she had sent it to him, it meant she was no longer all that afraid. Tristan had only just started enjoying a few good days. He had not crossed into this world just to end up in prison. Just as his thoughts grew more and more tangled, another message from Victoria came through. You have 2 minutes. Come upstairs like a good boy. He hated being threatened by her like this, but even more than that, he hated the thought of going to jail. Seeing how bad his expression looked, the young woman quickly poured him a glass of water. What's wrong? He forced himself to calm down and answered, sorry. Something came up on my end, so I have to go first. Take your time eating. After that, he hurriedly paid the bill and went upstairs to find Victoria in the private room. Meanwhile, inside the room, when Blair had arrived earlier, she had happened to catch the scene of Victoria pinning Tristan against the car. She had even snapped a photo and brought it back inside to show the others. And from her angle, it looked exactly like Victoria had him pinned down in a forceful, overpowering way, almost like she was forcing herself on him. After that, the group even went over to the window together and happened to see Tristan walk away without looking back. That only convinced them further that Victoria had just forced herself on him, while Tristan clearly did not love her at all. So when Victoria entered the private room, Blair immediately went up to her with a smile, poured her a drink, and the group silently agreed not to mention Tristan at all. Then, in the very next moment, Tristan pushed open the door, and all three of them froze in surprise. Blair was the quickest to react. She immediately stood up, gave up the seat next to Victoria, and briskly placed a fresh set of unopened tableware there. Tristan smiled and raised a hand in greeting. Hello, everyone. Then he glanced at Victoria and walked straight toward her. The three women looked at him, then at Victoria, and just like usual, silently made themselves invisible and started whispering among themselves. Tristan gritted his teeth and picked up his chopsticks, stabbing straight through the plastic seal over the bowl. Then he leaned a little closer to Victoria and asked in a lowered voice, "What exactly are you trying to do?" Victoria let out a cold little laugh. "I just want you to behave." The words made Tristan's fists clench. Did this crazy woman have no hobby in life besides tormenting him? But on the surface, he still wore a fake smile as he picked up his chopsticks and served her food. "Of course, darling. If you tell me to go east, I'll never go west. If you tell me to warm the bed, I definitely won't stop at warming the room." Victoria glanced at him indifferently and set down her empty wine glass. He immediately refilled it for her. After an entire afternoon of driving practice, he was starving too, and since Victoria was not asking anything else of him, he simply lowered his head and started eating on his own, and he ate with obvious enjoyment. It was only after he finished one full bowl of rice that he realized everyone at the table was staring at him. Without changing expression, he served himself another bowl and even smiled at them. "Do you want some too? I can help serve you while I'm at it." That only shocked them more. The old Tristan had only ever had eyes for Victoria and lived to serve her alone. Since when did he offer rice to anyone else? Then, in the very next second, Victoria, who had always hated being waited on by him, spoke up calmly. "Since you love helping people so much, peel this plate of shrimp." "I like it." Tristan's fists tightened all over again. This crazy woman. He did not even want to peel shrimp for himself. And yet he still sat down with a smile, looking at her as he spoke, though the smile never reached his eyes. "Of course, darling." He dragged the plate of shrimp over in front of him and started peeling while his mind raced with ways to break this deadlock. He had absolutely no intention of staying under Victoria's control like this forever. But he got too caught up in his thoughts, and before he noticed, one peeled shrimp went straight into his own mouth. The three people at the table looked at him, then at Victoria, and the air between their glances was practically glowing with gossip. Victoria was looking at him too, watching him stuff the peeled shrimp into his own mouth. Then she watched him keep eating as if nothing had happened, and something in her gaze immediately turned dark and unreadable. Only when that freezing stare landed squarely on him did he finally snap back to himself. He quickly shoved the next peeled shrimp into Victoria's mouth and said in the most serious tone possible, "I already tested it for you. It's safe, not poisoned." Victoria had food pushed in her mouth and chewed almost on instinct. But strangely enough, the icy look in her eyes eased a little after that. In the past, Victoria would have been disgusted even if Tristan simply placed food in her bowl. But now he had fed her directly into her mouth. And not only did she eat it, she even seemed perfectly fine with it. That was enough to make the entire table erupt into teasing. Chloe raised her wine glass and clicked her tongue. "Could you two maybe spare a thought for us single people while you're busy showing off like this?" Blair immediately chimed in. "Exactly. Do you two seriously misunderstand what public displays of affection are supposed to look like?" Tristan was already suppressing a stomach full of frustration, so hearing them egg it on only annoyed him more. But with the situation as it was, he could only keep pretending he was still trying his best to coax Victoria. Chloe swirled the wine in her glass and spoke with a teasing, almost roguish grin. She's as hard to please. Ever thought about liking someone else instead? Tristan kept his expression perfectly calm, stuffed another peeled shrimp into Victoria's mouth, and then lifted his eyes to her with a gaze so bright it looked as if there were only room for her in them. She is a little hard to handle, but she's beautiful. I just happen to like women who are beautiful, cold, and have a great figure. Victoria looked at the face, calmly spouting obvious lies with a perfect smile. There was still a smile on her lips, but it looked like she might grind her teeth to dust at any second. And yet, a trace of amusement slowly surfaced in her usually cold eyes. Watching her, Tristan cursed inwardly. What a psycho. After dinner, as they walked out of the restaurant, he had originally planned to head straight back to his own place. Instead, Victoria lifted a hand and tossed the car keys at him. You drive. She had been drinking and could not drive, and since the original Tristan had known how to drive, he had no real excuse to refuse. By the time he looked up, Victoria had already settled into the back seat, leaving him no choice but to sit behind the wheel and become the driver. Luckily, he had picked up the basics that afternoon, but no matter what, he was still a beginner, and beginners were bound to be nervous on the road. And on top of that, it was a night drive. He stayed tense from start to finish and drove painfully slowly. Leaning back against the seat, Victoria watched him somehow turn a luxury car into something that moved with the speed of a tractor. In the end, she really could not hold it in anymore and nearly laughed from sheer disbelief. Can you possibly drive any slower? His palms were already slick with sweat on the steering wheel, and every shred of his focus was fixed on the road ahead. He could not tolerate even the slightest distraction. Don't talk to me. The moment those words left his mouth, Victoria's face darkened at once. Tristan Vance, have you forgotten who you are? The very next second, the car shot forward like an arrow released from string. As Tristan watched the speedometer climb higher and higher, his mind went completely blank for a split second. Victoria sensed something was wrong too. There was already a car right ahead, yet he still was not slowing down, as if he were about to drag her to her death with him. Her face instantly darkened. Tristan, are you insane? Hit the brakes right now. Tristan nearly lost it on the spot. I am hitting the brakes. But the moment he realized he had mistaken the gas pedal for the brake, he panicked and slammed on the real brake instead. It was still just a little too late. In that split-second chaos, all he heard was a violent bang, and then the whole world seemed to go silent. When he finally came back to his senses, his neck and head were both throbbing with pain. Right after that, he heard Victoria grind out his name through clenched teeth, Tristan Vance. He turned to look at her, still stubborn to the end. I was driving just fine. You're the one who insisted on talking to me. Victoria stared at him with a pitch-dark expression, forcing each word out between her teeth. So you are blaming me? He actually dared to answer with confidence. Blame me then. Blame me for being useless. The second I heard your voice, I got nervous and could not even tell the brake from the gas. He said he was blaming himself, but there was not the slightest trace of guilt on his face. The moment the words left him, he stopped bothering with her altogether, shoved open the door, and got out. Victoria laughed in pure anger, pulled out her phone with a dark face, and called Maya to come handle the aftermath. The moment she hung up, she looked up and saw him rubbing his neck. While bending down to speak to the owner of the car he had hit, his posture had clearly lowered, and it was obvious that he was genuinely apologizing. This version of him was nothing like the Tristan she remembered. In her memory, he had never lowered his head to anyone except her, let alone apologized. He used to be spoiled and willful. Even when he was clearly in the wrong, he always acted high and mighty, as if everyone else deserved whatever happened to them. In a car accident like tonight, the old him probably would not even have stepped out of the vehicle. He would have just made a call and let someone else deal with it, never caring whether the other person was hurt or not. But now, the first thing he asked was, "Are you okay?" Once the car door opened, the woman stepped out while rubbing her neck. There was a bruise on her forehead, and that small mark marred what had otherwise been a pale, delicate face, so perfect it almost looked unreal. The moment Tristan saw her face clearly, his heart skipped. He instantly felt even more guilty, and the apology in his voice deepened. Because the woman in front of him was none other than Aurora Reed, the leading actress from Oliver's newly released youth melodrama, and one of the hottest young stars in the industry. The first time the book mentioned her was also through her collaboration with Oliver Hayes. Her description in the novel had been simple, but vivid enough. A former child star, and now a top actress. Oliver landing his very first film opposite her had once made fans celebrate like it was a national holiday. Later, the on-screen pairing between her and Oliver went explosively viral across the internet. But tragically, it was in that same year before the original Tristan died that she died too, leaving behind a long suicide note before taking her own life. The sunshine girl who always smiled so brightly on screen had, behind the scenes, a pair of parasitic parents bleeding her dry. They had broken the wings of her dreams with their own hands, forced her to lose herself step by step, and treated her as nothing more than a machine for making money, never once caring about what she felt. After living under that pressure for so long, the moment they tried to force her to accompany an untouchable big shot in the industry became the final straw that broke her. In the end, she chose suicide. When Tristan had read that part of the novel, he had felt that Aurora Reed was almost like another version of himself. That suffocating sense of understanding had made him cry more than once. Aurora Reed glanced at her damaged car, then looked up at Tristan. There was even a trace of smile in her eyes. "Tell me, does this count as the legendary disaster falling from the sky while I am just sitting in my car?" She had only been sitting quietly at the traffic light, waiting for red to turn green, and somehow still got hit out of nowhere. Tristan came back to himself and saw the weariness and fragility that had not quite faded from her eyes. The guilt in his chest only grew heavier, and he could only speak with full sincerity. "I am really sorry. I will cover the repair costs for the car, and I will also pay for your medical check and emotional damages." Most people, the first time they met Aurora Reed, were stunned by how beautiful she was and could hardly hide the amazement in their eyes. But this was the first time she had ever seen someone look at her the way Tristan was looking now. It was a look that seemed to pierce straight through her glamorous shell and see, in one glance, the unhappiness she had hidden so deeply beneath it. While Aurora Reed was still standing there in a daze, Tristan Vance took out his phone and handed it to her. "Put your number in. If anything comes up later about the car, it'll be easier to reach you." Aurora did not really care much about the car, nor did she actually plan to ask for compensation. But the way Tristan had looked at her a moment ago still made her take his phone and add her contact. After calling her own number to confirm it, she handed the phone back and asked with a hint of curiosity, "You really don't recognize me?" Tristan slipped the phone away and smiled. "Aurora Reed? A top star like you? Of course I do. I'm even one of your loyal fans. How about giving me an autograph too?" Aurora looked at him, clearly unconvinced. After all, when Tristan first saw her, he had not looked the least bit excited, like someone meeting his idol. Seeing that she still had not moved, Tristan simply stepped forward and pulled her into a hug. "If you won't sign, then at least give me a hug." Aurora froze. This hug felt completely different from the excited, over-the-top embraces she usually got from fans. Tristan just held her quietly, and what he said sounded half like a confession and half like comfort. "You really are amazing. What you've done has given a lot of people the courage to face the things they thought would break them, and the strength to keep moving forward. I just hope that one day, someone gives that same courage back to you." Inside the car, Victoria Sinclair watched Tristan turn handling a simple accident into flirting with another woman. Her face darkened instantly, and she shoved the door open. Then she strode over, ripped Tristan straight out of Aurora's arms, and dragged him away without another word. Aurora stayed where she was, watching him leave, but her mind was still caught on everything he had just said. Before disappearing completely, Tristan even glanced back and waved at her with a smile so warm and bright under the lights that it almost did not look real. Victoria slammed Tristan against the car again, her face cold as ice. "Flirting right in front of me now, Tristan? You're getting bolder by the minute." Instead of backing away, Tristan leaned even closer. Through the thin fabric, his fingers lightly traced the line of her waist. "My life is still in your hands right now. If you won't let me touch anyone else, then even if I wanted to, I wouldn't dare. So right now, all I can think about is how to coax you. What about tonight? I can warm your bed." He even made a show of leaning in closer again. And just as expected, Victoria's expression turned even uglier, disgust flashing across her face. With a dark expression, Victoria yanked open the car door and shoved Tristan inside. But Tristan suddenly felt much more at ease. A woman who could barely stand touching him could not really do much more than threaten him. On the way back, Tristan got a call from Eleanor Vance. "Why aren't you home yet this late?" He did not want his family to worry, but with the divorce still unresolved and Victoria now using this leverage over him, he obviously could not keep living at the Vance house every day either. So Tristan had no choice but to lie. "I'm not coming back tonight. Victoria already apologized to me, and I decided to give her one more chance." Victoria shot him a cold glance through the rearview mirror and almost laughed from irritation. Eleanor, however, sounded as though she had expected exactly this outcome. She was not too surprised, only a little disappointed. Then bring her home tomorrow for a meal. Tristan glanced at Victoria behind the wheel and agreed for the time being. All right, Eleanor added another reminder. If anything happens, remember to tell Mom. Get some rest. Tristan answered softly. You and Dad should sleep early too. Don't stay up and don't keep worrying about me. The moment the call ended, Victoria's irritating voice came again. I apologize to you? For what exactly? Tristan replied, casually. It was just an excuse for my parents. How could you possibly be wrong? Obviously, all the fault is mine. Inside, Tristan was still deeply annoyed, but he also knew that the more he acted like someone who was miserable yet still forced to coax her, the more satisfied Victoria would feel. As long as she felt in control, his days would go a little easier. But Victoria clearly had no intention of stopping there. She spoke again, cool and sharp. I remember you used to love posting those long little essays on your feed. Since you know you were wrong, then write one tonight. No fewer than 300 words. Back when the original Tristan posted them every day, she had blocked him and never read them. Now that Tristan no longer loved her and had deleted them all, she was suddenly forcing him to write one again. Tristan rolled his eyes inwardly, only thinking that domineering heiresses really all did have something wrong with them. But on the surface, he still smiled and agreed. Fine, I'll write it when I get back. The moment he got home, Tristan went straight back to his room. As soon as he stepped inside, he immediately sent Elena Sterling a message. Elena, if the Vance family wanted to crush Sinclair Holdings, how likely would that be? Or, to put another way, how much money would it take to buy Sinclair Holdings outright? In just 2 short years, Victoria Sinclair had pushed Sinclair Holdings all the way to the top of the local market. Tristan refused to believe a rise like that had happened without at least a few dirty tricks buried underneath. The problem was that she was the heroine, and heroines always came wrapped in plot armor. The book had never given him any real leverage against her. If he wanted to stop being controlled by her, he needed to become stronger than she was strong enough to push back and pin her down instead. He simply refused to believe that someone like him, who had crossed into this world armed with knowledge of the future, would lose to her. Forget Victoria taking down Vance Group. In his mind, the right ending was the exact opposite. He was going to bring down Sinclair Holdings. He might not have every skill in the world, but when it came to spotting the next big money-making trend before everyone else did, he definitely had an edge. Not long after, Elena Sterling called him on video. There was even the faintest smile on her face. You hate her that much. But in the very next second, once she realized he was not at the Vance estate, but back at the Sinclair residence, her brows drew together slightly. You went back there again? Tristan did not hide it from her. He told her outright that Victoria had used that video to threaten him. Elena's expression darkened immediately. What video? Send it to me. Tristan forwarded it to her, his tone still relatively calm. You people probably didn't know about any of this before, right? Elena stayed silent for a long time. The moment Tristan saw that reaction, he understood. The Vance family really had known nothing about it, which meant that all this time, Victoria had been the one quietly keeping those scandals buried, so they would not explode. But now, every one of them had become leverage she could use against him. If that was how things stood, then he had even more reason to crush her as soon as possible and get hold of something he could use against her in return. Staring at Elena on the screen, Tristan suddenly asked, if I remember right, Vance Group has its own film and television production pipeline, doesn't it? Have someone send me profiles on every artist signed under the company. Elena was clearly caught off guard. What do you want those for? Tristan answered seriously, I just thought of a project that could make an absurd amount of money, but it's hard to explain clearly over the phone. Tomorrow, when we meet, I'll walk you through it. Before crossing into this novel, Tristan had actually spent quite a bit of time studying the short drama industry, since writing had been one of his side hustles. He remembered it very clearly. More than one short drama, made on a budget of just a few million, had gone on to pull in over 100 million in a single day, crushing big budget productions that had cost several hundred million to make. And short dramas moved unbelievably fast. Shooting multiple series in 1 month was nothing unusual. Their biggest selling point was simple: a handsome male lead, a beautiful female lead, acting that only needed to be passable, and a wildly over-the-top but addictive plot. As long as it was exciting enough, people would pay. Viewers would mock them for being cheap and outrageous, while still hunting everywhere for the next episode. In the age of exploding short video platforms, short dramas were nothing less than a goldmine. More importantly, in this novel world, short video platforms had only just begun to take off, while short dramas still had not truly exploded yet. The entertainment industry here was still stuck in a far more traditional model. Rebirth plots, transmigration plots, revenge power fantasies. None of that had really been industrialized for the screen yet. So Tristan's plan was simple. He would take all those breakout short drama hits he remembered and launch them before anyone else. Once they exploded, everyone else could try to copy them if they wanted, but by then, they would already be choking on dust. After the video call ended, he went to take a shower. By the time he came back out, the files Elena had promised were already sitting in his inbox. He opened his laptop and went through them one by one, only to discover that the company had signed a new batch of rookies not long ago. That only made the direction clearer in his mind. He planned to find time to visit the company in person. But before that, the most urgent thing was to turn those future hit stories into actual scripts. If he wanted to get out from under Victoria's control as quickly as possible, there was no time to waste. He sat down and started writing immediately, and once he got into the flow, he could barely stop. Right in the middle of it, Victoria suddenly sent him a message. What? Is 300 words really that hard? Should I raise it to 500? Tristan glanced at the time and realized it was already late. This crazy woman was not even asleep, and she still had the energy to obsess over those ridiculous love posts she was forcing him to write. She was seriously out of her mind. With a cold laugh to himself, he decided that if he was going to disgust her, he might as well do it properly. He quickly posted something visible only to her. I'm starting to think I crave her body more and more. Otherwise, why would I be lying awake at night, imagining her stripped bare, letting me do whatever I want with her? I can't stop wondering whether those cold lips of hers are really as sweet as I picture them. And that body she keeps wrapped up so tightly all day long. I wonder if it's really as soft as I imagine too. Victoria had never expected Tristan to be this shameless, openly writing out fantasies about her body in words this direct. Her face darkened, then flushed, then darkened again, the color changing so fast it was almost impressive. But before long, she noticed something was off. In the past, whenever Tristan posted anything, the usual people who loved flattering him would rush in with likes and comments almost immediately. Yet this time, quite a while had passed, and there was still not a single comment, not even one like, which meant he had obviously written the post for one reason only, to disgust her, and he had made sure she was the only one who could see it. Victoria stared at the post for a long moment before finally replying with one cold sentence. Very well written. From now on, write one every day. The moment Tristan saw that message, any thought of sleep vanished completely. He lowered his head and went right back to the script. In one stretch, he wrote 2 opening arcs, each mapped out for more than 300 episodes. By the time he finished, it was already past 5 in the morning. After encrypting the files and saving them, he collapsed in a bed and passed out almost instantly. When Victoria Sinclair woke up, she found no breakfast on the table, and the downstairs area was so quiet it felt almost unnaturally still. She walked to Tristan Vance's door and tried the handle, only to find that it was locked again. She raised a hand and knocked. Tristan was so sleepy he rolled over and pulled the blanket over his head, but there was no escaping that sound. The knocking came again and again, making it painfully clear that if he did not open the door, she would just keep going. Tristan was dragged awake by sheer irritation. He climbed out of bed, yanked the door open, and snapped. What could possibly be so urgent at this hour? He was wearing loose, comfortable pajamas, his hair was a mess from sleep, and he kept yawning with a face full of morning irritation. Even so, there was still a lazy kind of beauty to him. Victoria's gaze paused on him for just a moment before she lowered it again and asked coolly, "Where's breakfast?" That question woke Tristan up even more. She had banged on his door this early just for breakfast? He was not running a breakfast service. His temper flared on the spot, so Tristan stepped forward and wrapped her in a tight hug, deliberately trying to disgust her and get a little revenge. No breakfast. You can just eat me instead. A faint, clean scent drifted into Victoria's breath. It was no longer that sharp cologne from before, but something lighter, more like shampoo and body wash, fresh and clean. Victoria clearly lost focus for a second, but very quickly that instinctive sense of disgust snapped her back to herself. She shoved Tristan away and threatened him with a cold face. "Are you sure there isn't any?" Tristan clenched his teeth and swallowed the anger back down. "I'll go make it right now." Ever since crossing into this world, Tristan had not stepped into the kitchen once. After rummaging through the fridge, he found almost nothing useful. In the end, all he managed to scrape together was some noodles and a few eggs, so he made a simple bowl of noodles. By the time he finished cooking, that crazy woman was already gone. He originally thought she was not going to eat after all, so he ate by himself and planned to go back upstairs for another round of sleep. But not long after, Victoria sent him a message. Bring it to the office. Tristan looked at the message and nearly ground his teeth apart. This woman really had a gift for making people miserable. He could only change clothes, grab his laptop, and head out. Before leaving, Tristan noticed that the bank card he had once placed on top of the divorce papers was still sitting quietly on the coffee table. He picked it up, slid it into his bag, and then bought another breakfast on the way before taking everything to Sinclair Holdings. By the time he arrived, Victoria was in a meeting, so Tristan dropped the food on her desk and left as fast as he could. Elsewhere, Elena Sterling had only just read through the opening outline, but her face was already full of disbelief. This setup is really new. Tristan smiled and nodded. Right? That's what I thought too. He pulled over a chair and sat down, waiting until Elena had more or less digested what she had read before continuing. I want to turn this into a short drama. Then Tristan started explaining the basic logic behind short-form video and short dramas. From there, he naturally moved on to the market potential. Short-form video had only just started taking off, and the user base had already passed 100 million. That market was only going to get bigger. As Elena watched Tristan, she felt as though he was glowing while talking about work, his eyes bright and his whole expression alive. Combined with the outline she had just read, it even made a ridiculous thought flash through her mind for a second. Was this really Tristan Vance at all, or had some other soul taken over his body? Because the Tristan she knew had always been a little spoiled, with all the pampered pride and temper of a rich young heir. Absurdly picky with food, refusing to touch random street snacks, using only luxury brands, and never once bothering with cheap little roadside stalls. Especially after he fell for Victoria, his eyes had held only her. He had never cared about family matters or company business. If his soul had not changed, how could he possibly have changed this much overnight? When Tristan noticed Elena staring at him in a daze, he casually picked up a pen from the holder and lightly tapped her on the forehead with it. He laughed and teased. This face really is a little unfair. Even a nun would probably be tempted. So what do you think? Elena folded her hands on the desk, giving nothing away on the surface, and looked at him with those same gentle eyes. If the production cost is really that low, then it's worth trying. Since this was your idea, why not let you take charge of it? Tristan agreed at once, without hesitation. No problem. I'll send you the script first, and you can pass it along so the directors can start preparing. Later, I'll go to the agency myself and choose the male and female leads. You just need to help me give the agency a heads up. Elena Sterling looked at him and asked proactively, "Do you want me to go with you?" Tristan waved it off. "No need. You should focus on your own work. If anything comes up, I'll come to you." After wrapping up the short drama discussion, he had already taken 2 steps away when he suddenly seemed to remember something and turned back. He ended up catching Elena staring at him in a daze. Tristan pretended not to notice and simply continued, "There's one more thing. I want to sign Aurora Reed." Elena lowered her eyes, leaned back in her chair, and looked at him with clear confusion. Why the sudden decision? Tristan explained seriously, "I just think Aurora Reed is one of those rare talents in the entertainment industry. She's definitely going to blow up in the future. But her manager has always been her father, and it doesn't look like he ever planned to let her sign with the company. Have someone draft the contract first. As for the rest, I'll talk to her father myself." Elena looked at the confidence on his face and, for a moment, lost herself in thought. After leaving the company, Tristan had originally planned to head straight to the agency. But then another text from Victoria came in. "If lunch is still takeout today, then you can just wait to make headlines." Tristan gritted his teeth as he read it. This crazy woman really was frighteningly dedicated when it came to tormenting him. He checked the time, changed direction, and went to a luxury mall first, where he dropped over $1 million in one go. After buying gifts for the original Tristan's parents, he carried all the bags back to the Vance estate just in time to freeload off lunch. The moment Eleanor saw him walk in smiling with gifts in hand, and clearly not using the family's money, her first instinct was that Victoria must have come back with him. She looked toward the doorway again and again, but never saw anyone else. So she asked, "Did you come back alone?" Tristan answered casually with an excuse. "She's busy with work. She didn't have time to come." Eleanor said she didn't mind. "As long as you came back, that's enough. Why buy us anything?" But the way she kept turning the handbag he had bought for her over and over in her hands, admiring it from every angle, made it obvious that she adored it. The more she looked, the more she loved it, to the point that the bag she already owned suddenly seemed ready for retirement. One of the household staff noticed too and immediately chimed in with a smile. "Madam, this bag is gorgeous. It matches your outfit perfectly." Eleanor instantly stood up, still holding the bag, and admired it all over again, her whole face brightening with delight. "Really? Tristan bought this for me. Isn't it beautiful? The staff member quickly followed up. Young master has excellent taste. Madam absolutely has to carry it when she goes out for afternoon tea later. Watching how happy she was, Tristan could not help feeling a little surprised. In his old world, whenever he carefully picked out gifts for his own parents, all he ever got back was criticism. The only children they ever praised were other people's sons and daughters. He had never experienced this kind of enthusiastic response before. Stories about parents proudly showing off gifts their children bought them were things he had only ever heard from coworkers. So he had always assumed that wealthy women like Eleanor, women who lacked for nothing, would never care much about small gestures like this. After lunch, Tristan suddenly asked Martha to pack up the leftovers from the table for him. The moment Martha heard that they were meant for Victoria, her eyes nearly popped out. Young master, packing leftovers for young madam. Isn't that a little inappropriate? Should I make 2 fresh dishes instead? Tristan waved a hand and rejected the idea outright. No need. These are fine. As Martha packed everything up, she kept sneaking glances at him. The more she looked, the stranger it felt. In the past, whenever Tristan brought Victoria food, he always prepared it ahead of time, picked the best dishes, and fussed over every little detail. But now he was sending her leftovers. Young master really had changed. With that thought in mind, Martha changed the subject. Young master, you didn't see madam just now. This is the first time I've ever seen her this happy. Tristan blinked. Really? Was she unhappy when she went out for tea before? Matsesite. Young master doesn't know. When those rich ladies gather for tea, they're always comparing husbands or children. She isn't happy because of the bag itself. She's happy because you bought it for her. Almost instinctively, Tristan looked over at Eleanor, who was already busy changing clothes and getting ready to go out for afternoon tea. The original Tristan had never worked, had thrown himself into that marriage by force, and had kept his entire focus on Victoria, barely sparing any attention for his parents. So every time those wealthy ladies sat together and talked, Eleanor could only sit there quietly, listening to other mothers brag about their children while having nothing of her own to add. But this time was different. Her son had bought her a bag with his own hands, and for the first time in a long while, she felt like she finally had something she could proudly show off too. Tristan remembered what had happened in the book after Vance's group collapsed. All those wealthy women who used to keep close company with Eleanor Vance turned on her, mocked her for raising a useless son, and sneered that she had let her entire family be handed over to someone else. The thought made him walk straight over to her. Mom, let me help you pick the look. I'll be your stylist today. That instantly made Eleanor even happier. Tristan personally put together a polished outfit for her, with an aesthetic that was practically ahead of this world's tastes. By the time he arrived at Sinclair Holdings, it was already almost 1 o'clock. He happened to run into Maya and, without a word, shoved the insulated food container straight into her hands. Victoria's lunch. At the same time, Victoria had already checked the time on her wrist for the 5th time. It was exactly then that the office door was finally pushed open. She looked up almost on instinct and saw Maya walking in with the food container, smiling brightly. Young master started bringing you lunch again? Victoria's face immediately turned even colder. Where is he? Maya answered honestly. He already left. In truth, after days of eating takeout, even she was starting to miss the food young master used to make. Since Victoria seemed to have no more questions, Maya instinctively hugged the container to herself, like usual, and turned to leave cheerfully. Then I'll head back out. But in the very next second, Victoria's cold voice stopped her. What do you think you're taking that? Maya froze. You don't eat the food young master makes, do you? The second the words were out, she sensed the dangerously cold air around Victoria and instantly shut her mouth, placing the container on the desk instead. Take your time eating. I'll go back to work. Victoria loosened her tie slightly at the collar, leaned back in her chair, and stared at the container for a few seconds. Her fingers tapped lazily on the armrest before she picked up her phone. Elsewhere, Tristan had just sat down in the car and had only just finished his call with the talent agency's director. Then Victoria's call came in. Buy me a coffee. The one from Magnolia Avenue. Bring it to me personally. Tristan nearly ground his teeth apart. Did your assistant die? Victoria replied as if it were perfectly reasonable. Having an assistant do something this small would be a waste. You're perfect for it. Tristan laughed coldly. Then I really ought to thank you for helping me realize I've still got some use. Even so, after hanging up, he still went to the agency first. Inside the agency, Tara Shaw was gossiping with a few girls. Isn't the Vance family's young master supposed to have had eyes only for Victoria all this time? He never cared about the company at home. So why did he suddenly come to the agency to pick the male and female leads? Do you think he got ignored for too long and now wants to pick out some little girl to keep around? Chloe Chandler immediately chimed in. I think so too. Isn't casting supposed to start with sending out the script and then letting the director organize auditions? Who shows up to pick people directly before anything's even ready? And he specifically said he only wanted to meet those newly signed girls. But Summer Sutton could not help pushing back. Aren't you all overthinking this a little? If he were really here to pick up women, why would he ask for all of them to be brought together? Tara rolled her eyes at her. Are you stupid? Obviously, that's just to keep up appearances and cover his real purpose. Just as the girls were gossiping harder and harder, the office door opened. The director walked in with Tristan. The whole room went quiet in an instant. The director gestured toward the group. They're all here. Tristan looked them over from the nearest to the farthest, scanning each one from head to toe, and then walked straight toward them. He reached out and squeezed the arm of the girl standing farthest to the left, his tone blunt. Your collarbone line isn't showing at all. Go work on that. Sierra Cole's face turned bright red on the spot. The girl's gossip earlier had been loud enough that she had heard every word. Tristan then turned to the girl beside her, pinched lightly at her waist, and commented in the same flat tone. This one's carrying a little extra. Go lose some weight. Zara North could not help asking. Do actors really have to be judged by their figure too? Tristan answered seriously. That depends on what kind of role you want to play. Extras don't need much, but if you want to play an idol-style female lead, then both your looks and your figure have to hold up. As he spoke, his gaze swept over the group again, and he already had a rough conclusion in mind. Their photos had looked passable, but seeing them in person made the gap obvious. Either the face was not quite there, or the figure could not carry the camera. Short dramas moved fast, cost little, and paid terribly. Actors with even a little name recognition rarely wanted them. If established stars would not come, then all that was left for newcomers was whether they could sell a frame with their face and presence. Because if the looks were not there, the audience would not even want to click. Tristan himself was shamelessly appearance-driven. If even he thought someone fell short, then viewers definitely would not be satisfied. The male and female leads had to be attractive. After looking over everyone, he finally stated his purpose clearly. I'm preparing to shoot several short dramas here. Not the traditional kind with 40-minute episodes, but the fast-paced kind made for short-form video platforms. But before he could finish, a message from Victoria came in. You went to buy coffee, not fly overseas. What's taking so long? He lowered his head and typed back. Traffic. Stop rushing me. Give me another half hour. After replying, he looked up and continued. The shooting schedule for one script will probably run about 7 to 12 days. Pay will depend on the role, ranging from $600 to $10,000 a day. If any of you want to sharpen your acting, go register with the director first. After laying that out, he did not stay any longer. With Victoria still holding him by the throat, he could only wrap things up quickly and leave. As soon as he was gone, Summer Sutton asked first, Are any of you actually going? Tara Shaw laughed on the spot. You really believe that nonsense? A drama shot in just over a week, with episodes barely a minute long, and all the leads played by newcomers? Since when has anyone ever heard of something like that? Chloe Chandler, however, sounded much more analytical. Still, from the way he looked all of us over the second he walked in, he was obviously here for us. It's just that he clearly didn't find anyone he liked. Tara immediately turned and teased Zara North. Zara, I think he was actually pretty satisfied with your face. Better lose some weight fast, or you might miss your big chance. Meanwhile, by the time Tristan reached Sinclair Holdings, the delivery rider was already waiting outside the building with the coffee. He walked over quickly, tipped him, took the coffee, and hurried upstairs. The moment he pushed open the office door, Victoria's cold gaze landed on him. He acted as though he did not notice, handed the coffee over, and even put on a faintly apologetic smile. Sorry to keep Ms. Sinclair waiting. There was still a light sheen of sweat on his forehead, and his breathing was a little uneven, as if he had rushed the whole way there. Victoria glanced at the coffee on the desk and asked coolly, You didn't poison it, did you? In the very next second, Tristan picked it up and took a sip himself before smiling at her again, though the smile never reached his eyes. Ms. Sinclair, do you feel safer now? Victoria's face darkened even more, and her eyes moved back and forth between him and the cup he had already drunk from. He, on the other hand, deliberately circled around the desk and moved closer to her, wearing the shameless expression of someone practically throwing himself into her arms just to please her. Does Ms. Sinclair need anything else? Maybe a kiss and a hug too. Victoria immediately rolled her office chair backward, forcing more distance between them, and stared at him coldly. Tristan had not even had time to enjoy the way she treated him like some dangerous beast, before she said flatly, I invited a few friends to dinner at the house tonight. Go back and prepare it. He felt his temples jump. He had ordered takeout in the morning and deliberately brought leftovers at noon because he did not want to cook for her. And yet this woman insisted on making him do exactly that. He gritted his teeth, forced down the anger, and kept that perfectly usable smile on his face. Of course, Miss Sinclair. About how many people? Chinese or Western? Victoria answered with casual indifference. 5 or 6. Figure it out yourself. He turned to leave, still keeping up the act. Understood. Then I'll head back first and make the preparations, Miss Sinclair. But the moment he turned around, the smile vanished from his face completely. He could not let Victoria keep making him the center of all her attention like this. He needed to throw something else in front of her, something that would focus on Oliver Hayes again and hurry up and get rid of him. Leaning back in her chair, Victoria watched him leave, her throat moving slightly for no clear reason. She loosened her tie a little more, then casually picked up the coffee on the desk and took a sip. Only after swallowing did she suddenly remember that Tristan had already drunk from that same cup first. In the very next second, her face darkened like a storm rolling in. She shoved the coffee far away and did not touch it again. But for the entire afternoon, every time Victoria glanced at that cup of coffee, she immediately remembered that she had shared a drink with the man she hated most, and the thought irritated her for no reason. In the end, she simply threw the coffee straight into the trash. Out of sight, out of mind. Meanwhile, back at the house, blaring music was already shaking the place. The flower in my heart, I want to take you home. In that late night bar, who cares if it's real or fake? Let yourself sway and forget the one you like. You're the most charming one, don't you know it? By evening, while Victoria was still outside in the yard, she could already hear the lively, rhythmic music coming from inside the hall. She frowned and stepped inside, but Tristan was nowhere to be seen in the living room. Instead, the rich aroma of food kept drifting out from the kitchen. As she took off her coat and walked toward the kitchen, she found 2 women cooking, and one of them was even holding out a dish for Tristan to taste. Tristan took a bite and praised her. Delicious. Honestly, someone as pretty as you with a figure like yours doesn't look like a chef at all. I almost thought I'd been scammed. Turns out you really do know what you're doing. The woman laughed. Then what do I look like I should be doing? Tristan replied, with your looks, it'd be a waste not to be a model. He was chatting away quite happily when he suddenly felt a chill run down his back, as if someone were staring straight through him. He turned around and, sure enough, found Victoria standing there with a face so dark it looked like someone owed her billions. Tristan had barely taken a step toward her when Victoria curled her lips into a cold, mocking smile. I told you to cook, and instead you brought 2 women home. You really do know how to enjoy yourself. Should I call a few more for you? As she spoke, she reached for her phone. Tristan reacted instantly, pressing a hand over hers. Enjoy myself? I only brought in 2 chefs because my own cooking is too embarrassing to put in front of your friends. I didn't want you losing face. I'm not an idiot. If I were really bringing women home, would I do it this openly? Just then, the doorbell rang. Victoria shot him a warning look and pulled her hand back, while Tristan hurried off to answer the door. By the time he returned, Victoria's phone was ringing. She pulled it out and glanced at the screen. Tristan looked over and saw Oliver's name. Instantly, his ears practically perked up. It turned out Oliver had just gotten home when he received a same-city delivery, a bouquet of flowers and a package. When he opened it, he found a brand new suit inside, along with a card. Oliver, I like you. I dream about you every night. I want to see you so badly. I think you'll look irresistible in this. Oliver was instantly creeped out. It felt like pure stalker behavior, as if every move he made was being watched. So he called Victoria. Even his voice was shaking. Victoria, can you come over for a minute? Victoria immediately asked, what happened? Oliver's voice tightened. I think I've run into a creep. Standing nearby, Tristan nearly burst out laughing the second he heard the word creep, but he bit his lip and forced it back. The moment Victoria ended the call, Tristan instantly turned diligent and started carrying dishes to the table. In 2 years of marriage, this was the first time Victoria had invited her friends over. Combined with the way the 2 of them had been acting lately in public, Blair immediately pulled out a gift and shoved a hotel card worth $50,000 straight into Victoria's hand. She smiled meaningfully. Just a little token from us. Don't be too touched. Chloe was carrying a mysterious gift bag and grinned. These are all things we've personally tested and can guarantee are amazing, so naturally we had to share them with you. Looking at the gifts, Victoria felt they were becoming more outrageous by the second. She suppressed her temper and said, I have something to deal with. I'm stepping out for a bit. Tristan came out with a dish and immediately put on a considerate expression. If you have something to do, then go ahead. I'll entertain them for you. He casually shoved the dish into Blair's arms and snatched the gift bag from Chloe's hand. Go on, don't let it delay anything important. Victoria saw how eager he was to send her away, then swept her gaze across the room full of women, and her expression turned even colder. In the next second, she grabbed his wrist. "You're coming with me." The moment those words fell, all her friends froze in shock. Tristan paused too, then forced a troubled expression. "Is it really appropriate for me to tag along while you're handling business? Besides, we have guests. What kind of hosts leave and abandon the people they invited?" Tristan wanted to refuse. After all, this whole setup was something he had arranged just to shift Victoria's attention and force her to worry about Oliver. The entire stalker fan situation was completely fabricated. If he really tagged along, then how were the two of them supposed to build any chemistry? But Victoria did not give him a chance to refuse. She only tossed out a quick, "Make yourselves at home," to her friend before dragging him out so fast he did not even have time to put down what he was holding. Once he was shoved into the car, Tristan finally looked down and saw what was in his arms: the erotic hotel card and a bag of adult toys. His face flushed red instantly, and he hurriedly shoved everything over to her. "You can put these to good use tonight. Your friends really know how to pick gifts. I'll have to toast them properly later." The more he thought about it, the more he felt he could not go. He hurried to find an excuse. "No, I should head back. If we both leave, what if they tear the house apart? I'll stay and host them while you handle your business." Victoria looked at him as if she had seen straight through him, shot him a cold glance, tossed the items into the back seat, and started the car. Tristan had not even brought his phone. Once they got to Oliver's place, he planned to stay in the car while she handled everything herself. But Victoria took the keys and walked inside without looking back. Curiosity got the better of him. Tristan quietly followed after her and hid outside the door to spy. Inside, Oliver was visibly restless. The moment he saw Victoria, he looked like he had just seen his savior. He rushed over, showed her the card, and explained everything. Without even realizing it, Oliver always turned to Victoria first whenever something went wrong. Her presence made him feel safe, but she was married. So Oliver had desperately kept his feelings buried and his distance intact. He did not love Tristan, but he still respected the line between himself and Victoria. But after hearing that she and Tristan were getting divorced, the feelings he had buried began to sprout and grow wildly, impossible to suppress any longer. The delivery only had his address on it, so Victoria checked the surveillance footage first. While calling someone to trace the package, she looked at him and said, "Until we figure this out, don't stay here alone." Outside, Tristan felt awful watching their dry little exchange. No tension, no touching, nothing. His mind was screaming. Where's the frightened boy throwing himself into her arms? The gentle comforting? The kiss? The spicy scenes? Can the two of you stop holding back already? Even Ninja Turtles would be braver than this. Bored, he idly started playing with a plant by the door, rubbing the leaves between his fingers. Frustrated by how little progress they were making, he accidentally used too much force. By the time he snapped back to himself, he had yanked the entire plant out by the roots. Oliver walked out just in time to see it and instantly assumed Tristan had misunderstood something and gotten angry. Oliver stiffened and hurried to explain. But Tristan moved faster, quickly setting the plant down with an awkward smile. "Sorry, I was just waiting around and got bored. I used too much strength by accident. I'll buy you a new one tomorrow." Victoria shot him an unreadable look. Oliver, still dazed, waved both hands quickly. "No, it's fine." Tristan had no interest in watching them anymore, so he walked out ahead of them. Behind him, Oliver whispered, "Victoria, did Tristan misunderstand? Is he angry?" She looked ahead and replied flatly, "Don't worry about him." Tristan got into the car and took the back seat, leaving the passenger seat open for Oliver. Oliver felt it was inappropriate to sit in front, but Tristan refused to move. In the end, Oliver sat in the passenger seat uneasily. He wanted to explain something, but Tristan had already closed his eyes. When Oliver glanced up, he caught Victoria looking at Tristan through the rearview mirror. Oliver had asked about the divorce before, but Victoria had dodged the question. Now that he realized she had actually brought Tristan along in her car, his thoughts fell into chaos. Was she starting to care whether Tristan misunderstood the two of them? The instant that thought surfaced, Oliver's heart grew unsteady, as if something he had once believed he could hold onto was quietly slipping away. Victoria started the car and glanced at him. "Have you eaten?" Oliver answered softly, "Not yet." After those two short lines, the entire car fell into a silence, so heavy it felt almost eerie. Sitting in the back seat, Tristan stole several glances at them, only to find zero progress. It irritated him so much he wanted to turn invisible and physically shove their heads together just to make them kiss. Back at the house, Blair was busy gossiping. "Tell me this isn't the classic case of caring more about romance than friends." She had something to deal with and still dragged Tristan along. Why? She's obviously afraid one of us might set our sights on her husband. Serena frowned. Honestly, I thought they weren't coming back. Maybe we should just leave? Blair immediately shot back. I already gave her my gift. Why should I leave? Not only am I staying, I'm making her pay for a huge meal tonight. As she spoke, she pulled out the most expensive bottle of wine. She had just opened it to celebrate when Tristan walked in. He looked annoyed and was walking fast. Right behind him came Victoria and Oliver, one after the other, leaving all three women completely stunned. Tristan grabbed a glass of water and drained it in one go. Only then did the fire in his chest calm a little. He had even paid cash, so the delivery could not be traced back to him. After all that effort, there was still no progress. The more he thought about it, the less willing he was to accept it. Then his gaze landed on the wine, and an idea flashed through his mind. Drunken chaos might be exactly the push they needed. Whenever Oliver ran into trouble, Victoria was the first person he turned to, and she had dropped her friends the moment he called. If that was not mutual love, then what was? If she were not dragging out the divorce just to torture him, Tristan would have applauded on the spot. This CEO's taste for revenge really was something else. But for the sake of his future single life, he greeted everyone with a smile. Already started drinking? Perfect. I'll go grab 2 more bottles. Tonight, nobody leaves sober. The 3 women stared at him in confusion as he happily went off to get more wine. Blair's eyes widened. Did she seriously bring her husband back just to pick up her lover? Serena shook her head. Victoria really wants the best of both worlds. Chloe, meanwhile, sounded a little envious. By the time Victoria and Oliver reached the table, Tristan was already back with 2 more bottles. He sat himself at the far end on purpose, deliberately leaving the 2 middle seats open for them. Victoria took the middle seat